Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for our Back to School Nutrition Essentials webinar. Just a quick note that the full webinar recording will be made available to all registrants after the webinar is over. So be on the lookout for an email in your inbox from us towards the end of the week. To kick things off with quick introductions, I'm Lisa Lavery with FoodSmart, and I'll be one of your webinar hosts today. I manage content and head up culinary development for our company. I live in San Francisco with my husband, two preteen kids, and my lazy, snoring bulldog Moose. I've got quite a crew over here. So, for those of you new to the FoodSmart community, we're a digital nutrition platform whose goal is to make eating well simple. We've got all kinds of exciting tools that help you live more healthfully, and we'll highlight them during your time with us today. Joining me is one of my most favorite coworkers, Maddie Reeder.
Happy to be here. Thanks, Lisa. And hi, everyone. I'm Maddie, and I'm a registered dietitian and a clinical account consultant for FoodSmart. I live in North Carolina with my fiance and our goofy pup, Ghost.
So cute. I see ghosts sometimes in our meetings. So we will start off with our presentation, and then when we're done, we'll get into answering the questions that you all submit. And feel free to share them via the Q&A icon or in the chat on the bottom of your screen. We'll answer as many as we can during that section at the end. And if you have general questions or need any support while we're on the call, please use the chat. Claire, another one of my favorite coworkers, will be happy to help you.
So, before we get started, let's do a brief overview of what we are going to discuss today in the hour that we have together. First, we'll go through nutrition essentials for kids. Then we'll discuss some tips to get your kids to eat and enjoy healthy foods. And finally, we will share some recipes that we love and easy tasks for growing sous chefs and for the people that care for them.
Sounds great, Maddie. Let's dive in.
All right. So, we all know that good nutrition is essential for all of us, but for children especially. Research shows that nutritious and well balanced diets keep kids feeling energized, helps them reach their full growth potential, and perform better in school. And plus, good eating habits established during childhood can carry into adulthood, which means that what you do now can really help your kids stay healthy throughout their entire life.
Definitely. And having two school age kids myself, I know firsthand that getting them to eat and actually enjoy nutritious foods can be a challenge. So today, Maddie and I are going to go over some of the essentials of good nutrition specific to kids and some strategies and recipes to help you build healthy eaters and take some of the stress out of mealtime.
Yeah, and I love starting with the basics when we are talking about these important topics because there's a lot of misinformation out there about nutrition in growth stages for children. But it's important to look at the big picture and start with a solid foundation first and foremost.
Definitely, and it might be no surprise that children, they need the same nutritious foods and essential nutrients that you and I do, just in smaller quantities. So, Maddie, can we just go over the essential components of a healthy diet and how then they can be applied to kids?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. So, the first thing that I want to discuss is offering plenty of fruits and vegetables. That's really important. They're packed with vitamins and nutrients like minerals and fibers and can help reduce the risk of cardiovascular disease, diabetes, and certain cancers that often appear in adulthood. Fruit and veggies can also create a feeling of fullness, so adding them to meals and snacks is a great way to keep that hunger monster at bay. And later on, Lisa and I will share some strategies to actually get your little ones to eat those healthy fruits and veggies and enjoy them too. Second, we want to focus on serving wholesome carbohydrates. Refined carbohydrates spike blood sugar levels and should be served sparingly. These are what I like to call sometimes foods, and they can fit into a balanced diet on occasion. Instead, you should serve complex carbs, which provide more sustainable energy. They're found in things like whole grains, fruits, and vegetables, and provide your kiddos with more fiber, like we talked about with fruits and veggies, and important B vitamins.
So, Maddie, can we share some examples of those refined carbs, the ones that we want to avoid?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the most common refined carbohydrates that we think of could include things like white pasta and white rice, white bread, sweets, and sugary beverages. And I should add, when it comes to sugary beverages, that does also include juice.
Gotcha. So basically, all of the foods that are marketed towards kids, those foods on the low shelves in the grocery store that end up in their lunch boxes.
Exactly. And that is why it's so important to have a basic understanding of what a solid nutrition foundation is so that we can make informed choices and teach young minds how to healthfully do the same. So, all right, let's move on to our next few points. As a best practice, it's also great to avoid processed meats and limit red meats because research shows that their consumption may increase the risk of certain cancers, as well as heart disease and obesity over long periods of time. So, offering those lean proteins to children is very, very important. Instead, trying to serve things like lean proteins, options like beans, lentils, seafood, tofu, edamame, and poultry are great alternatives to the things I mentioned prior. Next, we want to limit high sodium foods and snacks and flavor things with spices instead. So, we all know that salty packaged foods and snacks tend to be popular among kids, like you just mentioned, Lisa. But it's best to keep these as treats, and offer as many unprocessed snacks like your fruits and veggies, cheese, and whole grain crackers whenever possible. Also, try cutting back on salt at home, like using two-thirds to half the amount of salt called for in a recipe, and add flavor with other things like herbs, spices, lemon juice, all of which are sodium free, and some of which offer important antioxidants and flavonoids, which help kids develop a taste for new and exciting foods. Lisa, do you have any favorite herbs and spice blends you like to use when making your family meals? I know you usually have some great suggestions.
I do. So there's a couple that I always have. Cumin, dried oregano, and chili powder are spices that I reach for all the time. My kids really love tahine, so we put that on popcorn and sprinkle it on top of grain bowls. And I really like to use curry powder for seasoning meals. And salt-free spice blend, something like Mrs. Dash's lemon pepper seasoning, is great on baked fish, or a Southwest seasoning blend for chicken fajitas are also great to use, especially when I'm traveling. If we're on the road and I'm going to the grocery store, I don't want to buy all those individual spices. So looking for a great salt-free spice blend and something that's smaller really makes sense. And once you build a pantry full of spices, you can experiment with making your own blends at home and keep them stored in individual jars for quick grab and go seasoning. And I also like the idea of limiting all that packaging from all of those snacks that are marketed towards kids, because the packaging, it all just ends up in the landfill.
I love those suggestions, Lisa. Now, there's one thing that we haven't covered yet, and that is staying hydrated. So, this is something we're bringing up last, but it's certainly not least because staying hydrated is really important, especially for kids, since it impacts everything from brain function and energy levels to digestion. And it probably goes without saying that water is the best beverage to serve when your child is thirsty. To keep your kiddo well hydrated, I recommend offering water between meals and snacks, and then milk or a alternative can be served with meals if desired.
So, what about juice and sports drinks? I know my kids are always asking for a Gatorade to pack in their backpack for soccer or baseball games. Is that a solid choice?
Well, both of those options contain sugar and calories, so it's best to serve those as a treat. For smaller kids, I try to limit to 4 ounces or about half a cup per day. Now, for older children who are very active or participating in sports, particularly this time of year when the weather is still really hot, having 8 to 12 ounces of a sports drink during or after activities that are lasting more than an hour can be helpful, both to keep your child hydrated and to replace some of those electrolytes that are lost in sweat.
Okay, got it. So for juice and sports drinks, you should limit portion size and save them for a hot summer day, which is basically a unicorn day here in San Francisco anyway. So when you say portion size, is there an easy way to figure out how much water your kids need?
Yeah, how much water your child needs will vary based on a lot of things: age, gender, activity level, the weather outside, pre existing conditions, and more. But that said, I've included some general guidelines for kids ages 4 to 18. You can see that children ages 4 to 8 need at least 5 cups of water per day, and then more as they get older, with boys also needing a little bit more than girls from age 9 to 18. Teens 14 and up should be drinking about as much water as is recommended for adults, actually.
That's really great info, Maddie. And it's easy to tell if your kids are getting enough just by checking if their water bottle is full or empty when they come home.
100%. And it works the same for adults too. There's a reason why water bottles are labeled. So, all right, now that we've been through and we know what to feed our kids to nourish them for back to school and practices, how do we get them to be excited about eating that healthy food? And Lisa, I'm sure you've got some great chef tips to share.
So I do have a few pro moves up my sleeve that I'm happy to say are kid tested in my home.
Oh, I can't wait to hear them. I don't have any children in my home, but I do help care for a lot of kids, and I have a fiance who likes to eat like a child sometimes, so I can't wait to hear what you've got.
So if you have kids, you know that they like what they know and they also eat what they like. That said, here are my 5 top tips to getting your kids to eat and actually enjoy healthy foods. So the first is just know your roles. When it comes to feeding your child, your job is not to cater to their every demand or prepare tiny separate meals if and when your child refuses to eat what you've made for the family. Your role as a parent is to buy and prepare a variety of healthful foods to offer at meals and snacks, to create a relaxed, comfortable eating environment, and to be a good role model yourself. A daunting task for sure to do that all of the time. Number two is to help let your child decide. Let your child pick out whether, what, and how much they eat. And don't nag or negotiate with them if they're not interested in a particular food. We've all been there. I've done it myself. If they don't touch their broccoli, forcing it on them only works against you. Research shows that an authoritarian parenting style at mealtime increases children's preferences for less desirable foods and decreases preferences for healthier foods.
Great tips. But Lisa, what if this ends up meaning that your kids don't eat broccoli at all?
Well, the thing about this approach is that it's perfectly okay that some veggies get left behind. You can let go a bit. The reality is, growing a healthy eater happens over time, not just at one great meal. So I suggest you keep serving a variety of healthy foods regardless of the outcome. And in time, your kids' taste will come around. Maddie, do you have any tips for trying to integrate those yucky foods along the way to see if your kids grow into them?
I do. I do. And the first thing I want to bring up is serving new or yucky foods alongside some of their favorites. And this allows you to gently offer new foods while letting your child remain in control of what they choose to eat. It doesn't matter their age either. Some children need to be offered a new food 15 times before they will eat it, and even more before they truly decide if they like it or not. Another tip for trying new foods is, instead of forcing your kids to eat, take a bite and swallow a new food. Encourage them to explore it a bit by touching it, licking it, smelling, tasting. I think we all can agree new foods are a lot less scary if you aren't being forced to swallow something you may not like. And don't hype healthfulness. This may seem a bit backwards, but research shows that when children hear about the benefits of healthy food, they're less likely to eat it or end up eating less of it. You're better off simply serving dinner without saying anything about its healthfulness. Instead, just emphasize how good the food tastes.
That makes sense. A little bit of reverse psychology on that.
Hmm.
Um,
Hmm.
so, what about those junk food rewards then? Is that a good way to balance out meals? You know, you eat something that's healthy and then you get a little treat afterwards.
Yeah, and a lot of people feel that way, and I totally get wanting to do that after eating a really healthy meal and wanting that reward. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, we would get a special treat if we cleaned our plate of regular food. We used to call it a happy plate. If you could hold your plate up in front of your face, then you got a treat afterwards. But research shows that offering food rewards like dessert almost always makes that reward food more desirable and healthy foods less desirable. And being overly restrictive increases your child's preference for and intake of restricted foods once they get their hands on it as children, and also that can lead into adulthood as well. So I recommend listening to and looking out for your child's natural cues to see what they need and what they're hungry for. So, what are they asking for? What are they talking about? What are they feeling physically and emotionally? You can use that along with the general essentials that we discussed before to determine what level of balance your child needs in a day, to determine when they can have those treats and when you can provide them to them, and when they need those other healthy, essential food options.
So it looks like the everything in moderation approach is best then, which I guess we already know deep down inside. So if we're not going to give them that little scoop of ice cream or that chocolate bar, what can we give kids for a special treat?
So, for non food rewards, you could give your kids more time to play outside with friends, or you could try giving stickers, which they could save up and trade for a new toy at the end of the month. Or there's always giving them a few extra minutes of screen time after dinner. Sometimes it's fun to have a sweet treat or something similar, but I've found in my work that tying it to an activity helps to take the label off of it being a good or a bad food. So maybe using some trail mix as pieces on a board game as long as you don't mind the mess, or having a popsicle while watching some fireworks, or after an evening walk with the pup, making it part of another activity, that it's not just this standalone special thing. I also make sure not to do all of my food education at one time or while certain food is being given, like we discussed before. We don't want to over educate about healthy foods or about those treat foods. Being mindful of when and how you're advising those children about foods is really, really important.
Those are great ideas. I mean, I think my kids would eat just about anything for some extra screen time. So now that we have snacks covered, we're ready to move on to tips for our main meals, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. So first, let's start off with the first and arguably most important meal of the day, breakfast.
Starting the day with a solid breakfast has been shown to have positive effects on academic performance, impacting everything from cognitive function to attention, comprehension, memory, even school attendance, too.
Well, with all that going on, it's most definitely crucial to start the day off right on the nutrition front. Maddie, what are some of your top tips for breakfast?
So, here are my top 3 breakfast nutrition tips. Number 1 is to avoid sugary cereals. They don't do much to fill the belly and can lead to mid morning sugar crashes, leaving your child feeling sluggish and irritable, which can make it hard to concentrate. Save sugary cereals for a treat and offer lower sugar, whole grain cereals instead. Look for cereals that provide at least 4 grams of fiber and no more than 7 grams of sugar per 3/4 cup serving. Number 2, pair quality carbohydrates with protein. If you want to give those energizing carbs found in whole grain toast, cereal, and oatmeal and granola more stay power, pair them with protein, like that found in eggs, milk, and yogurt. The combination makes the meal more satiating, so the breakfast stays with them longer and throughout the morning. And add in some veggies is my third suggestion. And yes, I said it. Eggs not only provide great quality protein and fats, but they also make a great vehicle for veggies. Dice up some of your kiddos' favorite veggies like bell pepper, steamed carrots, broccoli, cauliflower, peas, or sauteed mushrooms and bake them into some easy egg muffins to get a serving of veggies in before the day even begins. You can also add in fruit to the mix too, putting fruit in cereal or oatmeal. That is also a great choice. So, Lisa, what are some of your kids' go to breakfast options that they love?
Well, I have a couple that I'm going to share. And of course, knowing breakfast is brain food doesn't make it any less challenging to feed your kids a nutritious breakfast before the bell rings every morning. So for these, I recommend prepping one or two of these items before the school week begins so your kids don't end up eating that sugary bowl of cereal or grabbing a Pop Tart on their way out the door. So, next, I want to share my 3 great breakfast options you can add to your Food Smart meal plan every Sunday and eat throughout the week. So, first up is a recipe for slow cooker overnight oats. And the great thing about these is that you can set it and forget it. I recommend making the recipe with milk to add a boost of protein and fat. You can store leftovers in a Tupperware container and reheat in the microwave with just a splash more water or milk. Throw some fresh fruit or chopped nuts on the top. It's a great breakfast for kids. Next up is a hearty vegetable frittata. Just like Maddie said, pairing eggs with those veggies. And I use this recipe as a guide and pour them into individual muffin tins for little egg bites. You can bake up a batch and refrigerate or freeze them for a quick breakfast. Again, just reheat them in the microwave and pair with a piece of whole grain toast for a balanced breakfast with that serving of veggies. Next up, oatmeal protein pancakes. Everyone in our family loves pancakes. They're not only versatile, but they store well in both the fridge and the freezer. This high protein version is made from ground oats, which are a whole grain and can be topped with peanut or almond butter, fresh fruit, chocolate chips, or my favorite, just toss all three of them on there.
Okay, Lisa, I would eat any of these options for breakfast myself. So now that we have a few options covered, let's move on to lunch and snacks. And here are a few nutrition tips for those parents out there that pack school lunches. Number one, going back to what we talked about in our essentials section, encourage good hydration. Fill up your child's favorite water bottle and encourage them to finish it at least twice before the end of the school day. It seems simple, but staying hydrated is more fun if they see it as a challenge. Number two, include a couple of simple homemade snacks. Between their small bellies and high energy activities, kids need snacks to stay fueled throughout the day. And I know I need snacks too, so I completely understand. Pick snacks that provide a combination of carbs, proteins, and or fats to make them the most satiating and nutritious. Packed snacks tend to be high in sugar, sodium, and saturated fats, and they also tend to lack important nutrients. Things like fresh fruit, yogurt, trail mix, and string cheese can all be packed in a few seconds and provide good nutrition. I'll give you a few easy homemade snack ideas in just a few minutes. And number three, aim to include at least 4 of the 5 food groups in your kids' lunchbox. Simply because there are more food groups that make it into the box, the more balanced and nutritious the lunch can be. Here's a quick food group review with some lunchbox friendly foods. Number 1 is fruits. Chopped melon, pineapple, mango, grapes, banana, apple, pear, or orange slices are great options. For veggies, baby carrots are always popular. Things like grape tomatoes or sliced bell peppers, broccoli or cauliflower, cucumber or zucchini sticks, or even some baked kale chips are great choices too. Proteins, chicken or tuna salad with a cold pack in there to keep it nice and chili by lunchtime. Reduced sodium turkey or wrapped sandwiches, things like hard boiled eggs, and you need to slice them for smaller kiddos, but they're still a great option. Beans and brown rice to create a complete protein with the pairing there. Crunchy chickpeas, edamame, nuts, and nut butters are great choices and gives a little bit of variety to those lunches. Dairy options, things like milk that they can get from school or pack in a thermos with a cold pack in the lunchbox. Cheese sticks, cottage cheese, yogurt pouches, those are great suggestions as well. And finally, whole grains, whole grain pitas, sandwich bread, tortillas and wraps, brown rice, whole grain pasta, like in a pasta salad. Those are some unique ways that you can add those whole grains into your child's lunchbox.
These are all such great ideas, Maddie, and I love a solid formula to use when I'm trying to piece together lunches for both myself and my kids. And I've also got a few lunch packing tips to share, which can sometimes be a challenge. So I follow these to save time, minimize headaches, and maximize nutrition when I'm packing my kids' lunch. So, number one, think ahead. Don't wait until the morning of to pack the lunch to start thinking about it. To save time and get ahead, I think about prepping things for school lunches when I'm in the kitchen doing other things like making dinner or cleaning up after a meal. For example, chop up some extra veggies that can be paired with hummus or a yogurt dip while you're making dinner. I'll slice up extra chicken breast or two for wraps or a chicken salad. And if we had some fun leftovers that the kids really enjoyed, I pack those into small lunch friendly containers that will easily fit in their lunchbox. And it saves me some time from having to transfer it from the larger Tupperware bowl later on into individual little Tupperware containers. And my second tip is just, be okay with monotony. Chances are your kids already are because that's just how they're programmed. Don't stress out over packing different lunches each day. One of my mom friends finds it's easiest to pack the same lunch for her kids the entire week and then just change it up the next. Another friend packs the same sliced strawberries and bell peppers every single day because that's what they know their kid will eat. If repetition spares you some headaches and keeps your kid happy and fed, just go with it. Pretty sure no one's ever died from eating baby carrots, apple slices, or peanut butter and jelly every day for a week. And last up, involve your kids, and better yet, teach your older kids to pack their own lunch. Kids as young as 6 or 7 can start packing their own lunch with a little help and some boundaries, of course. Giving them this skill will save you time, spare your sanity, and teach your kid the components and process of building a nutritious, balanced meal. And as we all know, kids as little as 2 or 3 have opinions too. They can't quite pack their lunch, but you can involve them by giving them options for what goes in their lunchbox each week and give them a few items to actually put into the box.
These are great tips. And I think my favorite one from this set of three is the one about being okay with monotony. So many parents that I speak to, whether it's my patients or my friends, worry that they're not giving their children enough variety, especially during lunchtime, because it's a stressful thing to have to pack lunches every day and find those unique options that your children will actually eat. But your children will get the nourishment that they need, I promise, and you will be able to read their body cues if they're not. But 9 times out of 10, or even 9.5 times out of 10, giving them the same thing over and over, exactly as Lisa said, eating baby carrots, apple slices, and PB&J definitely won't hurt them if they have it every day. And I suggest to my clients with older children that once you're done your food shopping for the week, jot down on a piece of paper a few lunch appropriate options for each food group. So that would be proteins or mains, which they could use leftovers that you have from the night before, then things like fruits, veggies, whole grains, and dairy, and then a couple of snack ideas, and then give them the guide and let them choose one item from each category to pack in their lunchbox. So, Lisa, what are a few of your go to lunch options for your kids? You always have great suggestions.
Well, thank you. Yes, I have definitely the greatest hits here. So, first up is the tofu fried rice. This is great because you can swap in any veggies in your crisper drawer for this easy family favorite recipe. Tofu holds well in a thermos and in a lunchbox, so you don't have to worry about it. And it's a plant protein main dish that will fuel them for the rest of the day. Next up is this peas and ham pasta salad. Now, my kids love this whole wheat pasta, and it's loaded with vegetables. It does call for a small amount of ham, but you can feel free to swap in turkey, tuna, or even cubed chicken breast too. It goes with those all go really well in this recipe. And then to make it ahead, I just cover and refrigerate it without the dressing and then toss the dressing into the lunch portion the morning of and divide it between my thermoses. And if you like to make lunch the night before, these pizza roll ups are great because they can be covered and refrigerated overnight or even up to one day. So you could serve it, a couple days in a row. And then for homemade snacks, I really love these peanut butter berry energy bites. They pack protein, fiber, and healthy fats and can be made with an alternative nut and seed butters if your school's peanut free or peanut allergy free. These crispy chickpeas are delicious, and when they're roasted in a hot oven, they're protein and fiber packed snacks, and they get super crunchy and highly snackable for both parents and kids. And last up is the zucchini bread with chocolate chips. Looking for a little bit of something sweet to pack in that lunch. It's a great way to slip in some veggies into snack time. You can toss in some raisins and nuts instead of the chocolate chips too if you want to add a bit more nutrition. So, moving on to dinners, since becoming a mom, dinners have probably changed most dramatically of any meal at our house. And if you're a parent, you probably know the frenzy that this time of day entails. You're scrambling to get something nutritious on the table after a busy day at work while hungry, cranky kids are rummaging through the pantry, trying to fill up on snacks before you can get a meal on the table.
Yeah, I'll bet we could do a whole series just on dinner, but here are a few tips to help you make the most out of this sometimes challenging meal. First, follow a weekly dinner formula. That tip has probably helped me the most when it comes to meal planning. If you're like me and suffer from decision fatigue when it comes to food or meal planning, a simple dinner formula can help simplify how you think about this meal. My favorite weekly dinner formula looks something like this: one vegetarian meal, like a baked sweet potato and black bean chili together, one chicken and poultry or poultry meal like barbecue chicken and corn quesadillas, one fish, like salmon with toasted Israeli couscous, and one pork, beef, or lamb, like a quick shepherd's pie is a great option. I jot this formula down on a piece of scrap paper every Sunday, and I fill in 1 to 2 meals for each category, depending on how many meals we'll be eating at home that week. Then I add those meals into my weekly Food Smart meal plan and print off my grocery list, and the meal planning is all done.
Yep, I definitely follow a similar meal plan, and it's also worth mentioning that I lean heavily on leftovers for those busy nights. I'll even double up on recipes to freeze them for life-saving meals later on in the week.
I do the exact same thing, and you can really come up with any formula you want that works for you and your family, which is great. So, for example, you could do it by cuisine with Mexican Mondays, Italian Tuesdays, etc. But what I like about my formula is that it ensures a varied protein source and it doesn't involve eating too much meat.
Yep, that's great. And speaking of plant-based, another tip I have is to blend in veggies when you can. If you have little ones, dinners that incorporate pureed veggies can be your best friend. They're particularly great for those with only a few teeth and older kids, especially those who typically avoid raw, steamed, or sauteed veggies and dedicated salads. In certain dishes, they just lend themselves to pureed vegetables, particularly pasta sauces. If you haven't tried cauliflower sauce, you'll want to put it on everything. And they're great also in casseroles and soups. Two of my favorites are butternut squash mac and cheese. So you just mix in that butternut squash puree right into the cheese mixture, and cauliflower sauce over pasta.
Give veggie noodles and fries a try is one of my favorite suggestions. Kids love zucchini noodles and shoestring sweet potato fries because they're fun to eat, and parents love them because they're easy and nutritious. It's a really clever way to help kids see vegetables in a completely different light. We'll add one of our favorite models into the chat so that you can purchase it if you are in need of one. You can make veggie noodles and fries with everything from zucchini, squash, carrots, sweet potato, even broccoli stalks. The list really goes on and on.
And my last tip is to serve more family meals. This goes back to the point we made in the beginning. You prepare the meal and decide what goes on the table, but let the kids do the rest. Allowing your children to serve themselves gives them the choice of what and how much to eat, which makes them feel empowered and more in control. And this in turn increases the amount and variety of foods they'll eat and the new foods they'll try.
Yes, involving the kids is really important. This may not be an activity that you want to do at 6 p.m. on a Tuesday, but when time allows, make sure to get your kids involved in the dinner planning and preparation process. Kids who help out in the kitchen are more willing to eat what you make and try new foods because, after all, they helped and they feel empowered and part of the process.
And so here's a quick list of some age appropriate kitchen tasks that kids can help out with. So, kids as little as 2 years old can help tear lettuce or greens, help wipe off tabletops, wash fruits and veggies, and spin them in the salad spinner. They can break up cauliflower or broccoli into pieces and carry ingredients from one place to another. And once they hit that 3-year-old mark, they can shake liquids in a covered container, make their own dressings, love to knead and shape dough, mix and pour ingredients and spread things, apply soft spreads, and help put things in the trash. So, and the compost bin. 4-year-olds, you can get them peeling oranges or hard boiled eggs, mashing bananas, or cooked beans with a fork to make some refried beans. They can cut parsley and green onions with little kid safe scissors and help set the table. I know my daughter used to get very intricate with her napkin designs when she was little. And 5 and 6-year-olds can start to measure ingredients and use an egg beater, and they can start chopping veggies with some kid safe knives. You can find those on the internet for sure. So I know we covered a lot today and we only really just scratched the surface, but we want to wrap up with just a quick summary of a few of today's takeaways.
Remember to focus on variety. We saw this theme throughout. Aim to include at least 3 to 4 of those 5 food groups in meals and pick snacks that offer a combination of protein, carbs, and healthy fats to make the most satiating and nutritious meals and snacks possible. Use a meal formula. This helps ease decision fatigue and makes meal planning faster and more enjoyable.
Keep mealtime fun and stress free. Remember, kids are naturally neophobic, a new word for some of us. You might have to offer a food 20 times before your child will eat it. And don't pressure them to swallow a bite of new foods. Rather, encourage them to explore and describe them. Serve new foods alongside familiar ones so they don't feel forced to try something they're unsure of. And when my kids do that, we call that a polite bite. It was very nice of them to just take the bite, check it out, and see if they like it. And lastly, involve your kids. Assign them age appropriate tasks in the kitchen, have them pack their own school lunches, a lifesaver in the morning, and get them involved in the meal planning process.
Thanks, Lisa. I am so ready for one of those snacks we've been talking about. You're making me hungry as always. And as we wrap up, we just want to take a few minutes to highlight how FoodSmart can support you now and simplify your healthy eating efforts as we head back into our fall season.
So, first, let's talk about our amazing team of registered dietitians, Maddie, of which you are a part of.
Of course, our registered dietitians are experts in all things nutrition related. We work with you and create a plan that is customized to your lifestyle and goals. So, whether you're trying to manage your weight, treat a chronic condition, discuss and work through an emotional relationship with food, or find healthy dinner options in the sea of misinformation for you and your kiddos, our registered dietitians can support you. Registered dietitian appointments may be included in your health plan's offering free of charge, which is incredible. And you can click the link in the chat box to get scheduled with an RD like myself today.
Yeah, and I know booking an appointment can have such a positive impact on you and your family's health goals. And let's face it, everyone can use another member on their team to help keep them on track. And that's what our RDs are. So, next, let's talk about a few of the other useful tools that are available to you on the FoodSmart platform. So, first up, FoodSmart's meal planning tool, of which we talked about today. It makes it super simple to incorporate all of the tips. There's healthy recipes for everyone in your family. We have a huge database of recipes that span every cuisine and flavor preference. And there's even curated lists for recipes that can be made in 30 minutes or less, budget friendly options because, we're all looking to stretch our grocery budget these days. And then we also have an in app master meal list. So once you start making recipes with FoodSmart, heart the recipes your family likes to create your own personal cookbook right in the app. And then using those recipes, you can generate a weekly meal plan in a matter of minutes to reference for meals throughout the week and lunches and snacks.
We also integrate with Walmart, Amazon Fresh, and Instacart for quick and contactless grocery shopping if you're trying to avoid and limit trips to the store during this very busy and chaotic time of year. When you create a meal plan in the app, FoodSmart automatically generates a shopping list of the foods you'll need that can then be added to your shopping cart with just a few taps of your finger. And that means your days of writing a grocery list and losing it, like I usually do, are long gone. You can even compare prices across these platforms so that you find the best deals for you and your family at all of the stores near you.
Yep. And you can even invite other tech savvy household members to the family meal plan with you. Then everyone can view the week's meal plan, share their favorites, and even help with online grocery lists and tackle food shopping as a team. We also provide amazing ongoing education, and we keep members engaged and forming new healthy eating habits through our newsletters, blog posts, and webinars just like this one to create a strong network of tools to drive healthier eating decisions. And they're all created by our in house medical and nutrition team. All right, Maddie, I think we have time for a few questions.
Great, let's do it.